Hi guys. Oopsie. First of all, before I start with this new video, I would like to thank everyone who commented and watched my last video. I really appreciate it, and I don't actually appreciate it for myself. It's more about sharing your stories and letting other people see that their stories are not unique. They went through something that you went through, and by sharing your story you're actually helping them to see that they're not on their own. We all go through these phases in life, and that's something that connects us, you know, humans. So thank you so much for doing this. Now, oh yeah, and also it was nice to get some private messages, because first of all, it's lovely to read your experiences. I can learn a lot since I can see patterns, yeah. So thank you for that. And also, these messages show me that this stuff is still relevant, and this stuff needs to be told even more often. Yeah, so thank you so much for doing that. Now, today, I'm going to talk about why we go through a midlife crisis, as opposed to talking about crisis in general. We're going to talk about midlife crisis in particular. And also we're going to look at the development of the ego, because they kind of connected. These two are connected to each other. Yeah. Now, in order to understand why we need a midlife crisis, we have to go back in time. So let's go back to a time when you were a baby. There we go. This is meant to be a baby here, yeah. Now, as a baby, our number one job is to learn, and our number one job is to, basically to learn. But how we learn by observing the environment, and by literally absorbing everything. Our brain is like a sponge. We absorb everything from our surroundings. You know, in our early stages, we absorb our parents' beliefs, values, what's right, what's wrong, how to walk, how to eat, how to tie my shoelaces, right? Yeah. But what is interesting, that if I go back to the stage of the baby, when I'm a baby, there's a sense of wholeness. I feel as a whole being, yeah, as a baby, as a whole being, which means that for a baby, there's no sense of separation, or there's no sense of internal conflict, right? As a baby, you know, if you are hungry, you eat. I mean, no. If you're hungry, you're going to cry, and you're going to let your parents know that you're hungry. But if you're tired, you're going to sleep, right? If you want to discover something, like you saw something interesting colors, you're going to reach out, grab it, and you're going to play with it, right? So there's no internal conflict. Oh, is it right or not? Should I do it or not, right? I'm a whole being as a baby. But then what's happening afterwards? As we are growing up, yeah, as we are growing up, the ego starts to separate itself from the real self, and we kind of lose our wholeness. Yeah, we kind of lose our wholeness. We develop this ego because we need to meet the demands. We need to meet the demands of everyday life. Okay, so it's a necessary thing. It's a necessary. We need our ego. Because of our ego, we can say I or me. So we need to separate ourselves in order to fit in society. Yeah. So in order to accomplish all the tasks that we have to do in our young adulthood, yeah, we need to develop an ego, an identity, or you can call it a personality. Yeah. So what are the tasks that we have to establish at this point? Well, we have to, you know, we're going to school, we finish school, and then we're going to look for our first job. then we're going to develop our career, right? And we have to fit in society, right? So we're going to socialize, we're going to meet somebody, yeah? And at this stage, interestingly, at this stage, most people will find their, husband and wife. Normally they got married at this point. They're going to have maybe kids, and they maybe buy a house. Yeah, so this is very common. Not in my life and some of my friends, because some people go through this stage quickly and without establishing all that. It depends how fast you're going through stages. But most of the people, majority of the people, establish all these things in this young adulthood stage. Now, when I say young, you see, I use this little thing. I'm not sure how you call it. Yeah, the little thingy. This young adulthood stage actually can be in your 20s, can be up to 30s, and many people actually stay in this stage up to 40, 50, or even for their whole life. Okay, so let's say that we established all these things that we had to, and we managed to fit in society, we find our partners, and all that. Now, after a while, every stage has an upward phase and a downward phase, unfortunately. And so after a while, things will start to go down. And I explained symptoms of a crisis in my previous video, so I'm not going to go into details on that, on this one today. But this is when you start experiencing like dissatisfaction. Something is not right in my life, This is when you might feel, I have a house, I have 2 kids, I have a husband, a loving husband who's, taking care of us and all that, but I'm not happy. What's wrong with me? Why am I not happy? And so you might feel dissatisfaction, and it's going to grow. Yeah, as the time goes, it's going to grow. And why we feel this? Because we have a separation from because we separated from our real self when we developed our ego. And so we lost the sense of wholeness. Yeah, so we lost the sense of wholeness. And you might not experience this on the conscious level. Like, you might not say that, oh, I lost my sense of wholeness and I feel separated. But what you're going to experience is the symptoms that I just told you. Dissatisfaction, unhappiness, feeling okay but not particularly happy. And then after a while you go down and you might get towards like depression, and all those negative kind of symptoms. Yeah, at this stage some people even develop addictions, or health issues and all that, so it can be a real crisis there. Okay, now there's one more thing that I wanted to mention here. Yeah, so let me just go back to here for a second. During this stage when we develop our career and marriage and developing our ego and all that, we have to repress certain parts of ourselves. Why? Because we have to fit in society, and we have beliefs from our parents, our school teachers, our society, our culture, our tradition, religion, our community, right? And so they label things good and bad, right? This is good, this is bad. And so as a young person, young kid as well, and like young adult, we repress certain parts of ourselves that we label bad. And again, bad mean different for you and different for me. It depends on where you came from and what environment you grew up in. Yeah. But so what happens then is that all those repressed parts, all those repressed parts at some point wants to come up. The crazy thing that you can actually live your life like this for many years And some people do live their lives many years but feeling okay-ish, but not particularly good. The bad news is, after a while something will happen, something serious will happen that's going to give you a slap so that you notice that something is not right. And that can be a divorce, that can be, you know, relationship crisis, that can be getting redundant at work and you know, or developing a serious illness. And so yes, I would say this is a wake-up call. Yeah, so this is your wake-up call, and this is what we experience during midlife crisis. Now this is a wake-up call because what happens during the midlife crisis is that all those repressed parts, do you remember I talked about we repress certain parts of us to fit in society, right? And so we can't just repress and bottle things up. After a while, things will come up from the unconscious mind and it's going to say, deal with me. Deal with me, it's time to deal with me. And I'm telling you, there will be a time when things will come up. And that it means we can't prolong the crisis anymore. And it means that it's time to change. It's time to change, and it's time to move towards the next chapter. And it's time to move towards the next life stage, basically. So we cannot escape, you know, that. Of course, we can develop addictions at this point, and we can develop, you know, bad habits, addictions, overbooking yourself, being too busy so that we don't have to face, you know, our real emotions. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to deal with it at some point. So when you have this wake-up call in the form of a midlife crisis, which again I want to emphasize that just because it's midlife, and actually I want to do this because it, as I said earlier in my other video, it's not, it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen at your midlife. It doesn't have to happen at your 40s. The previous generations experienced this in their 40s, 50s, even 60s, yeah? So it was more like midlife. Whereas the younger generations, they go through this quicker because they progress faster. There are more stages. You know, humans are evolving. There are more stages coming afterwards. So I went through midlife crisis at the end of my 20s, you know, in my 20s. Yeah, so what I was gonna say, that when you have this wake-up call in the form of a midlife crisis, you have two choices. So you have choice one, where you're trying to maintain your old life and you try to put a mask on, yeah, so that represents a mask, and you want to wear a mask and trying to maintain your appearance and trying to maintain your old life and to show to the others that, oh, you're fine, I'm strong, I can deal with anything. What's going to happen after a while, because you're repressing things, you can't repress, things will come up at some point, and if you keep repressing things, unfortunately, it's going to come out in the form of an eruption. Yeah, like a volcano, and that will take things down. It's going to take down your relationship, that's going to probably lead to divorce, it's going to lead to maybe a serious illness, you might lose your career, your job, and that's going to be a full-blown, really dark crisis. But luckily you have another choice. If you feel that things are going downhill, and you feel dissatisfied in life and something is not right, and you've been feeling that for months or maybe a couple of years, the other choice is to start listening inwards. You have to start being honest with yourself, like brutally honest. you actually have to acknowledge what you're feeling, yeah, and you have to be able to share this, share this with others. If you have a partner in a relationship, share it with your partner. If you're trying to maintain this on your own and just bottle things up, it's going to be a big eruption and it will take everything down in your life. And so if you start listening inwards, what you're going to notice is that all those repressed parts, we can work with all those repressed parts, and you're going to, when you look inwards, what's going to happen is you're going to discover new resources within. You're going to discover new resources, new strength, new sense of confidence, new just positive resources along the healing journey. Okay, and this is how you can move forward. This is how you can move forward. Do you remember when I said at the beginning that we felt as a whole being when we were born, at the beginning, and then how the ego separated itself and caused the separation? Caused the separation. Now, a separation from the real self. Now, so guess what's happening during midlife crisis? Basically, this real self demands your attention. It's actually amazing, I think. It's like your real self is coming up and demands your attention. And it says, deal with me. It wants to come out and show that you are not what you thought you were. You learned all those rules from your parents. You learned all those values, beliefs from your parents, family, culture, society, right? But it's not you. It's not the real you. And this is the time during this first crisis. This is our first big crisis, the midlife crisis. This is when you have to start questioning those beliefs. Are those beliefs mine, or are those beliefs belong to my parents? Am I doing this job because they wanted me to do something similar, right? Are these values are mine, or is it from the media and from society where I grew up, right? This is the time, the wake-up call, this is the time to question yourself. And this midlife crisis is going to lead you to a new stage where you have to start living on your own terms. This is where actually you grow up. You grow up properly. This, when we were adults, but in very early, we were living by or with our parents' patterns. We did not live our own life. And so that's why we have to experience this midlife crisis, and that's why we have to experience this wake-up call, because it's time to live your own life. Okay? Now, it's an amazing process. I went through this a long time ago, but just so that you know, after this there will be different stages for men and for women. And so I'm not going to talk about this just now in this video, but I'm very happy to share that. So if somebody's at this stage, reach out to me. I'm very happy to share what would be your next stage, but there are different characteristics for men and for women afterwards. Okay, to wrap it up, just remember that you are not alone. You are not alone. Many people went through this before, and many people are going through right now, and many people will go through this at some point in their lives. And just a bit of warning, the more you keep the mask on, the more and the longer you put your head in the sand, the bigger the crisis is going to be, and it's going to lead to a big eruption. Okay? So, if you find this useful, and if you think it was interesting, you learned something, or you can maybe connect and relate to some of these experiences, please comment. I love reading your messages, even if it's private message. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for your attention and see you next time.